Hey everyone, it's Michelle Giles and Erik Christensen here with Z Design and Build. Today we are going to be discussing what the initial steps are to start the home remodel process. So we are going to go through a series of questions with Erik, and he's going to share his knowledge about renovations and remodels. The first question we had was, what are the initial steps homeowners should take when considering a home remodel, and where should they start the initial planning process?
Thank you, Michelle, for the introductions. As far as their start, it all really depends on what they're wanting to do, but their first initial thought process would be if they're going to be what location they're wanting to do, kitchens, bathrooms, that kind of stuff, and prioritize. But then as far as really the first step is trying to kind of figure out their budget. Because you can kind of play with the determination of budget with what they're able to do rather than what they want to do. A lot of people may not have a clear idea of what it's going to cost, so we usually like to ask as far as budget goes, so that we're able to give them as much as they are wanting off their list of, depending on what area they're wanting to remodel. Really, the other thing that we like to ask for is like Pinterest or Google or house images, because it gives us an idea of what they're looking for in their design aspect, and then we're able to narrow it down enough to where we can grab their vision and go from there.
Okay. Yeah, I always, when I'm talking to clients, I like make your wish list and make your actual list, your must-haves, and then the wish list. And I think that helps a lot with the process. So how can homeowners determine their renovation goals and priorities to create a clear vision for their project? You mentioned house, Pinterest. What are some other things just having to do with like that piece of it?
Sure. Priorities, it would be really like what areas, what rooms, what are the most important ideas and parts to the remodel that you want to I would create a list, whether it be handwritten, on your phone, in your head, whatever. But having that opportunity to say, hey, in our kitchen, we're wanting to do new cabinets and new countertops and flooring, the whole 9 yards. And working with the fact of, okay, if we have, say, they're starting with a $150,000 budget, we break it into, okay, this is where your allotment is, your allocations, your allowances for your cabinets, your countertops. So then we have like you said, a clear picture of how we can accomplish that whole vision. And again, going back into house and Pinterest, like really just getting those inspirational pictures gives us a better way to understand our client and their likes and their dislikes, and being able to, like I said, bring their vision to life.
Mm-hmm. And what resources or professionals should homeowners consult with at the beginning of a home remodeling project to ensure a successful outcome?
So when we deal with our clientele, one of the first things we talk to them about is what type of project they're going to go for. Now, if they're looking for an addition that requires engineering or structural or architectural stuff, we're going to refer them to our architect and our engineering partners, and really not just refer them, but kind of hold and help and guide them to that team and work with them and the team. So it's not feeling like, hey, here you go there and then come back to us. Mm-hmm. So we kind of help with them and guide them through that process. If it's something where, hey, we're just wanting to do new updates, new cabinets, and new flooring and paint, that really comes to just us directly first. As a design and build firm, one of the main focuses why we started it as a design and build firm was that we're not having to have so many chiefs around the fire. What that means is you're not having an architect, you're not having the engineering, you're not having a structural engineer, you're not having the designer, and you're not having the clientele and then a general contractor all around that same table. And if you are not needing some of those features, like an architect and engineering, which we of course don't do, so we obviously hand that off. But if you don't need that, then it's really just us and the clientele. So they're able to have a one-stop shop. So we can work with them as far as the design aspect of it and really guide them literally from A to Z, like have from their initial, hey, this is what we're doing. Here's our ideas. Here's our inspiration, to getting that pre-construction work done, the design aspect, their choices, their finishes, then leading into the last part of our name, our build part of it, the construction side, to, again, A to Z, going from the design aspect to, at the very end of the job, handing the keys back over to the client, say, hey, here you go. Here's your dream.
So it's a seamless process. It's collaborative.
Exactly.
And they don't have to worry about really anything else than other giving us their vision.
Exactly.
Okay. So a lot of people question, like, what does the remodel stages looks like from start to finish? What are the stages from somebody coming to us and wanting to start this remodel? How can you walk us through the process?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to go too much on the timing of it all, just because every job is different. But really, the first initial steps are going to be meet and greet, of course. So we're going to have a conversation with them, get their ideas, and then depending on what direction, if we need architectural or structural, we'll send them that way. But let's avoid that right now. So it's just working with how our process works. So we're going to get the initial ideas from them. We're going to build an estimate, provide them with that estimate. And then from there, if they approve it, we're in the next steps of obviously signing agreements and getting the deposits and that pre-planning, to the point where once we sign contracts, then we start the pre-design, the pre-construction work. What that entails is choosing products, and then ordering those same products. So the cabinets and the flooring and a lot of the finishes, not including like drywall or any of the stuff that is, no matter what, has to be done, but really making those decisions, even including paint colors and the sheen. Once we do all that, we make sure that it's in hand, in stock, or ordered, because we're not going to start a project in construction phase without making sure that those items are there, because we don't want to tear down, take apart their kitchen, and then 6 weeks later they have cabinets. So once we have all those items ordered and placed in hand, in stock, wherever, we then schedule the construction side of it. And I won't go into too much detail of that because, again, each job can be different. So you could be having groundwork and concrete, and sometimes you don't. So it's more along like we do the construction phase, and then as soon as we're done with that, we're going to do a final walkthrough and punch list with the client and make sure that they're happy and that they're taken care of, really. And then we walk away happy.
All right. And how important is it setting a realistic budget and timeline at the onset of a home remodel? And what are some of the factors that should be considered in this?
Yeah, so like what we like to do is, I like to call it, we give the clientele the world. What that means is the client's going to come to us no matter their knowledge, their experience of what it initially or what truly is going to cost, but more along the lines of, we're going to give them, hey, this is their list, their needs and their wants, and we're going to provide them with that whole list and say, hey, here you go. And from that point on, we then have that conversation with them and say, hey, this is what this total cost looks like. And if we are outside of their budget, a little high or whatever, we'll then have another conversation with them and say, hey, what are your priorities? So once we kind of delve into that and make sure that whether they get, of course, all their needs taken care of and some of their wants, or we get a majority of their wants as well, it's really a necessity to not only know the budget, but to make sure that we can accomplish as much as we possibly can inside that budget.
Okay. That makes sense. What are some of the common challenges that homeowners face when starting a remodel, just right off the bat, that you see?
Really, just from experience, we've had a lot of clientele that, I don't know, lack of a better word, think that it's a very small budget to do something pretty large. So from experience, we have clients that think that, they can do a whole kitchen for $20,000. And depending on the kitchen size, I mean, that's sometimes it can be a bit skewed on numbers. So that's kind of, again, why we go back into asking for their budget. But really, like, one of the big things is that sticker shock, I guess you could say. But there's not too many other issues, because again, we're when we do the on-site meeting with them and we're talking with the clientele, we'll be on site. We'll be taking a look at their home, and with the past experience and the knowledge that we have as far as like if they want to remove a wall or they want to do relocating of their kitchen sink or whatever. We can say yay or nay and if this is going to be a functional item or if it's even going to be feasible. But then on top of that too, what we also try to train them on is, or not really train them on, but guide them on is what would be the right way to do it too. Okay. So we're not going to if they're wanting to have some crazy thing that, hey, this is not their forever home, but they're wanting to do something that is outside of the norm. We usually like to at least give them the information that, hey, this might be a little too much, or even the better way to save money in their remodel altogether. Okay,
that makes sense. So how can homeowners ensure that their design preferences and practical needs are integrated into the remodeling process from the beginning? And I think you kind of touched on that, like giving their vision and their aesthetic and what they're looking for. But do you have any more on that, like as far as making sure that it's practical for them?
Yeah. So like one of the things that, again, why we became a design and build firm is that we can offer an all in-house, all-inclusive opportunity for the clientele. Now, just as far as design aspects go, we have different tiers of design options for them. The first tier, obviously, it's included in all of our jobs, is recommendations. Hey, you go to this company, go to this store, go to this vendor, go to this supplier, because we have relationships and experience with their products and their materials, and guaranteeing that we are providing our clients with great products.
Right.
But the other end of it, as far as the design aspect goes, is a lot of people are visual. So the opportunity of giving them renderings, whether that be 2D or 3D renderings, that is even to the extent of doing 3D printing of their floor plans so they can get a better vision of their home, because a lot of people can look at a floor plan and be like, yeah, that looks good.
Right.
But when it's in real life, it's a lot different. There's been a lot of times, and we do this every single time we do new construction or even additions where we're changing walls or whatever, is we're going to do a walkthrough after framing is up. So that way the client can kind of see, hey, this is how this closet's going to look, and this is how their bathroom's going to look. Because it's way different from paper to real life. And then at the same point, we'll even extend to, once drywall's up, we'll have that same walkthrough with the clientele to give them that knowledge, because the last thing we want is to have any of our clients have a shock or a surprise, or, oh, I didn't know it was going to be looking like this, and why didn't anyone say? We want to make sure that we're dotting all our I's, crossing all our T's, and again, that really creates that success in making sure our clients are happy.
Perfect. What role does obtaining necessary permits and approvals play in the initial stages of a home remodeling project? And how can homeowners navigate this process efficiently, or how can we help them with that?
So I'm going to speak on a couple of previous or upcoming clients, actually. One client we met with, and they were asking about the permitting process. And they're like, hey, we were thinking about doing this, but we're thinking about, is is a permit really necessary? And what they were going to have happen was extending and adding more livable space into their house. That didn't mean that we're adding any square footage to their home, but it was basically turning a garage into a livable space. So with that being said, permits are going to do a few things for you. One, it's going to be on record. So having a home that is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, you're adding say a 4th bedroom as a garage, or you're adding an ensuite or whatever it might be. You're getting that on record with the county, with the city, with whatever area is doing the permitting.
So I'm envisioning that's just going to make, sorry to interrupt, but that's going to make their value go up?
It does. And so, but the other part of it too is, let's say there's two different groups here. One that doesn't do the permit, does something in the garage, and then 5 years later, they're like, hey, we're going to put it on market. And their realtor comes in and they're like, oh, you have 4 bedrooms. Great. There, you got that. And on record, it still shows 3.
Okay.
So the realtor and they really lose out on that 4th bedroom opportunity as marketing and for a realtor and for equity really too, because it's not been on record saying, hey, it's now a 4-bedroom. So what that means is on record is that there's drawings and there's information for each home that is on public information, like, cities, counties, whatever. So as we do that, we're doing drawings and we're working with architectural firms and engineering teams that will provide those to counties and cities. So that way it's been updated to record. But at the same point, the other end of it too is there's a lot of intricate parts to remodels, being electrical and plumbing and mechanical, HVAC and all that kind of stuff that despite the fact that we as a company do everything to code and at the very least do everything to code, but making sure that everything is right and safe. We've had clients that have bought and purchased homes that you can just tell that it was homeowner done. Not to disregard that homeowners don't have an opportunity to do their own thing, but if a homeowner doesn't know certain things, they shouldn't touch their home. So we had a client that bought a home in near us actually, and their front deck, it was a roof, or it was a covered porch, very large, 15 by 15, that it was not connected to the home. The roof was not connected to the home. So at some point, if snow load or she had large amount of people on there for a party, there could be the chance of that all falling down and serious injury, if not worse, could have happened. But then on top of that, adding into that same home, you walk in and the electrical system is lack of a better word, shoddy.
Okay.
So there's fire hazard, there's shock, there's electrocution, there's a lot of unsafe things that can happen. So what that means in retrospect is that permits and inspections, because they go hand in hand, really. We have proper inspectors that come out, take a look at the stuff, making sure that it's all good and to code. So then we can cover and basically putting drywall up and finishes and all that, but making sure that everything's solid. And that's a really good thing for clientele, that they can be guaranteed that at the very least it's to code, which is, we like to go a little bit above code sometimes.
Yep.
So making sure that it just goes to safe and safety.
So we can handle the permitting process for the clients.
Yeah, for them, it depends really. Yeah, again, if it goes back to, we can handle the permitting phase for lots of different things. I'd probably say what we don't handle permitting in is going to be anything that regards or that needs an architect or an engineer stamp or drawings, because they're dealing with structure that is requiring calculations. Okay. We're not fit for that, but again, we have partners that we work with that do many jobs for us each month. Yeah. So, yeah, but for the most part, we can handle permitting. If we need to transpose to architects and engineering firms for those permitting, we basically allow them to be the quarterback for that project up to and through permit, because they will also get us and our client through and passing permit to where we can do the construction.
Okay.
But we're not going to handle too much of the paperwork. We're going to allow them to handle it. However, if we're not needing that, then we'll handle the drawings, we'll handle the paperwork and the inspections and the permits and all that necessary behind the scenes stuff that really takes a lot more than a lot of people think about.
Right. So can you provide examples of successful home remodeling projects where starting the process effectively contributed to a smooth timeline and quality outcome?
Yeah. So in general, like one of the things that I like to do in creating an efficient timeline with our clients is making those choices, like with allocations, allowances. So the finishes, the tile, the flooring, that kind of stuff, and ordering it.
Okay.
Just because we're not going to start a job and then 2 weeks later we're like having to wait and pause the job, get the products started again, and then we have to wait again because we're still waiting for other stuff for another phase. We're going to make sure ahead of time before we start the construction that everything is in hand or available.
Okay.
And that way what happens is that it keeps our schedule clean and efficient. There's no downtimes, there's no stoppages, just because in life in general, if you start something and then you pause it and then you come back, a couple weeks later or even a couple months later, you're kind of having to start from ground zero or you're rusty. You have to kind of shake that rust off, and so it keeps the timeline fresh. It keeps it smaller too, which is obviously a benefit for the client and their project. But really, it's a smooth sail all across the board. So we do a lot of pre-planning, and pre-planning does take a bit longer than a lot of people expect. Usually, people think, "Oh, it's filling in this and filling in that, and you're good to go." There's a lot of time with cities and counties where, depending on the project, it could take a couple weeks to a couple of months for that permit to go through that review process. And so at that same point, we use that time to make those decisions and order those products because we're kind of doing it in a double take. We have, on one hand, we're doing the permitting process, and then on the other, we're doing the design and the choices. So by the time permitting is completed and reviewed and signed off, we have not only all the products ordered, but it's in hand to the point where when we do get permitting signed off, we could potentially start that job. We're almost soon thereafter. So then again, we're just keeping it going.
It's like a seamless transition into that. So
exactly.
That's awesome. So how can homeowners stay organized and maintain clear communication with their contractors and professionals throughout the home remodeling journey to ensure that it's done timely? I know that's a lot of people's concerns, like as far as clients go, like I need this done by, next month or 2 months from now or whatnot. Like, how can they help to keep things on track and going forward?
Yeah, great question. Really, a few things. Us and myself in personal, I'm OCD a bit. So schedules, Gantt sheets, spreadsheets, you name it. I like to be very organized and very precise and very thorough for our clientele. One thing that I would say for clients out there looking for contractors is do your due diligence first off, making sure that they're a viable company. Get even references. Check up on them. We're licensed, bonded, and insured with the state of Washington, and we want to make sure that we're always on point. But at the same point, the other end of trying to find another contractor out there, of course, if we aren't your contractor, is really asking and following through with paper trails and emails and correspondence, and having a lot of questions answered. And hopefully we are helping answer those questions for our clients to be more educated, to reach out to new contractors and for their work. But the other end of it is just making sure that you find a contractor that is going to be communicative, that is, no matter what, is going to be responsive, because there's so many times we've had clients that have come to us after their heartache of a contractor not showing up not giving them an estimate, ghosting them,
Right.
disappearing with their deposits. Unfortunately, we've just recently had that happen. Or halfway through the job, they just stop.
Yeah.
It's
Like
may
something
not be a
else
good
came
fit.
along or something.
Yeah, or they're too busy. I mean, that's the shock is with us. A lot of people ask this, and it's a little side tangent here, but
Yeah.
there's no job too small for us, because it could be an exhaust fan in a bathroom. We could replace something, maybe a few $100s it's going to take for this. But what that has opened the doors. One, I like to make sure that people are always taken care of and helped. And we've had a majority of clients come to us and be like, hey, I can't believe that you actually did this. I can't believe you actually gave us an estimate. I can't believe you actually did the job, because we've been spending months, kid you, months to have someone help us. And it just makes me happy to know that they're taken care of, and it's a success, because hopefully down the road they have a referral, because they had such a good experience with us. They're like, hey, we want to help out them too. So it's really, again, it's just education with the contractors, making sure that they're not gonna do you harm in any way. But the biggest one as far as communication is having a paper trail. That's what we ask each of our clients to have, is despite them coming to us and say, hey, we'd like to add 2 vanity lights instead of 1. Whatever that might look like is, yeah, I've heard you. I've had that correspondence. You did tell me this, but I also asked them to send an email to us too, because then that way it's 2 months down the road, especially if our projects are 2, 3, 6 months long.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you what I said on a Monday 3 weeks ago. So having that paper trail, because then it's a clear correspondence and it's a back and forth, and there's not a he said, she said kind of thing with the client. And even if it's the client starting that with their contractor and asking for that, I mean, that it shouldn't be out of the realm of a contractor being like, we don't do work it that way. It really should be an open source for clients and contractors in general together.
Okay, great. And how, as far as like your communication goes, just out of the gates, do they get a spreadsheet, or do they get, like, what do you give just to kind of keep that communication flowing? And I work with the clients too, kind of along the way. I answer what I can, but I'm always going back to you too. But as far as that goes, what are they getting just at the start of the process, and how do you keep that communication going with them?
Totally. So we have a really good computer program, JobTread, that is our basically our project management software that we use. And what's nice about this software is that if we build a budget, we create an estimate, we send the proposal out to the client. If they just respond directly back from that estimate, it goes into the system and it sends us that same message. So we're getting that same correspondence. They can reach out in any fashion. But there's a lot of other features with that same program, as well as us in general. Gantt sheets, again, schedules wise, you're going to see where we're expecting. And that I want to emphasize expecting, because you never know the unforeseens, whatever adjustments may happen. But the expectation of what the schedule is going to look like. What is also neat about our estimates is that it is from start to finish. It is in order of each of those phases. So site prep and demo is always on top, and all the way to the final touches and final cleans. We have a cleaning company come out and clean the whole project. So it's ready for you. Basically, you get your keys, or obviously if it's a kitchen, I'm not just going to hand you the keys to your house, but basically, hey, here you go. Your project is complete. It's on a silver platter, and all you really had to worry about is what you're going to do after you've moved back into your kitchen.
Right.
But yeah, it's that opportunity to. They have the knowledge from start to finish of, okay, this is what we're expecting. Our proposals are very detailed. So it's going to tell you everything that we've included in the work. And when we do meet with clients and we're signing the agreements, I personally will go through each of those line items with them. So usually our client appointments for signing contracts is usually about an hour or two.
Okay.
Because we want to make sure that they're knowledgeable, and if they have any questions at that time, we can help. But from that point forward, there's obviously the process of keeping them up to date as far as their project goes. And like I said, we do a lot of guided walkthroughs with our clients throughout the process. So they get to see excerpts of what their project's looking like, and keep them really excited, because I mean it's their place, and they're really just, I love making. I'm a people pleaser, so I mean I love making sure that our clients are always happy, and we tend to do that all the time.
Absolutely. But definitely appreciate all the feedback and information, and hopefully that was helpful for anyone looking to start a remodel or renovation project. Thank you so much.
Thank you.